In this video, we're breaking down Broderick Jones' rookie season, offensive tackle who was the Steelers' first-round pick in 2023. Like most Steelers rookies, they eased him into the lineup. He wasn't a full-time permanent starter until week 9 against the Titans. He played most of week 4 and 5 at left tackle when Dan Moore got injured, which is the position he played in college and the position that I think the Steelers drafted him to play long-term. That's a huge factor that you've got to take into consideration when you evaluate Broderick Jones' rookie year. He was playing out of position. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out this year. They drafted Troy Fautanu in the first round, who also played left tackle in college, but at a certain point, I expect left tackle to be Broderick Jones' long-term position. But I think it's fair to say that we need a second-year jump from Broderick Jones. I remember I watched his first 6 or 7 starts probably in real time, or at least, the day after whenever the film dropped, and I had a very positive opinion of how Broderick Jones' rookie season was going. But when I finished his tape for this video, I came away with a lot more concerns. I thought he had his 3 or 4 worst games back to back to back to end the season. As we're going through this video, you can take note of how many of the worst plays were against the Ravens, Bills, or Colts to end the year. And so when I look at his season as a whole, I view him as a player that needs to take a significant second-year jump, but a lot of my concerns are really concentrated in a few just disastrous games to end the year. And if his season ended in like week 14, we'd probably be having a similar conversation as we did with Paris Johnson Jr., Darnell Wright, Peter Skoronski. Solid rookie seasons. They just need to clean some things up and get more consistent. So tough player to pin down, but we'll do our best to look at it from every possible angle. These are his numbers from 2023. I know that Steelers fans love PFF grades, but unfortunately with offensive line stats, we are kind of in a seller's market. I would love some competitors to pop up with good publicly available offensive line stats so that there's multiple points of reference, but he did have the 7th lowest pass blocking grade of qualifying offensive tackles. He gave up 5 sacks, 34 pressures. Overall, this statistical profile is very similar to every other rookie offensive tackle that I've covered. Honestly, I could have just made the same graphic. Pretty much everybody ranked in the 40s to 60s in every stat. He did only have 1 holding call and not a single false start. Avoiding penalties is something he's been consistently good at throughout his career. He wasn't heavily penalized in college either. And then this table has all of the rookie offensive linemen with at least 350 snaps, 20 qualifying players. He ranked 10th in PFF grade, about average compared to rookies in pressure rate, blown block percentage. He was in that tier of rookie offensive linemen where they're good enough to be on the field and continue to develop, which I think is the bare minimum. He showed flashes of what he can be eventually. He has a ton of upside, so much natural talent, but there were enough losses, enough bad performances where you say this definitely has to improve going forward. I always like to lead off positive with these videos, so we're actually going to start with run blocking, where I think Broderick Jones really excelled as a rookie. I think it's still a question whether or not he can develop into a high quality pass blocker, but I have no concerns about him adding value in the run game. The most impressive thing that I saw consistently on his tape was using the snatch trap technique to win backside cutoffs on outside zone. So normally the snatch trap is a pass blocking counter when the rusher overextends, usually when they're getting into a bull rush or a long arm. You can slap down their hands, release contact, and kind of cut the line that's holding them upright. But there were so many plays from Broderick Jones where he's reaching the 3-tech on the backside of outside zone. The defensive tackle extends his hands to get ready to engage with the block, and before they can even make contact, he traps them and prevents them from impacting the play. This play against the Cardinals, inside the 5, the 3 technique shoots his hands to engage with the block. Immediately, Broderick Jones traps him before he can even establish contact, puts him on his stomach. Another one here against the Browns. 3-tech tries to shoot his hands inside. Broderick Jones traps him, puts him on his face. This play against the Seahawks, Draymond Jones barely even tries to get into his frame. Like, you couldn't say this is an overextension on his part. Broderick's just so skilled with his hands here, accurate, quick reaction time. Once you give him anything on the backside of zone runs, he's going to quickly take advantage of that and dismantle the defender. This play against the Colts, they're running a crack toss, but same sort of block from Broderick Jones. DeForest Buckner only gives him 1 hand, but that's all he needs. And then another one here against the Packers, just an automatic slap down on Devontae Wyatt. So normally when you're trying to be complimentary of an offensive lineman's run blocking, you'll say run in their direction, like run left if they're a left tackle, run right if they're a right tackle. With Broderick Jones, it's almost like you want to run away from him, not because he can't hold up at the point of attack, but because he's so consistent sealing off the backside. He also has the potential, I think, to be one of the best run blockers in the NFL at pulling, getting out in open space, blocking at the second level. At 311 pounds, he ran a 4.97 in the 40-yard dash, 1.67 10-yard split. Vertical and broad jump were solid as well, and you see that explosiveness and straight line speed show up on tape. This was arguably his best run blocking rep from the season in week 17, which was also one of his best games, I thought. They're running counter with Broderick Jones as the puller. He's explosive out of his stance, builds up speed quickly. He connects to Julian Love and launches him on impact. The speed and explosiveness create a lot of momentum, but what allows him to finish the block and finish it so early is the power he generates with his upper body. You can see the hand pop and striking power when he makes contact. That's what allows him to transfer his momentum into the defender. Another candidate for block of the year against the Packers. Again, he's pulling across the formation, connects to the kick out block, drives him 3 or 4 yards downfield onto his back. And then he was also really effective on down blocks and drive blocks. Watching all of these first round rookies, that's one area that I think the class as a whole did better than most rookies do. I think there were times he could do a better job of latching and connecting to the block more consistently so he can improve his control and allow him to sustain the blocks for longer. But the power and leg drive I thought were pretty consistent. He also had very few negatives in the run game. I'm actually surprised he didn't grade out better in that phase. I thought he was pretty consistent across the board. So I love what he showed in the run game. I thought pass protection was a much tougher watch for Broderick Jones. Like I said, I think his first 6 or 7 starts, I'd probably put him in the same class as most of the other top rookies. But down the stretch, he had some disaster performances. He was a turnstile against the Bills and the Colts. The second Ravens game, he had some really bad reps. He ended up allowing 4 sacks over the last 5 seasons. He could have easily given up 9 or 10. And I think the main problem with Broderick Jones, at least right now, is that he's a very aggressive pass blocker with his hands, but he doesn't really have the skill set or refined technique to back that up. Whether it's a two-hand punch or an aggressive strike with the outside or inside hand, he's looking to establish contact and end the rep early. On his college tape, he obviously had a lot more success with that play style, but even in the NFL, you saw examples of how it could work out. But this is a play style where a lot of times you'll see a steeper development curve early in their career while their skill and technique catches up with their aggression. So on all of these reps that I'm showing where his outside hand's getting swiped or chopped down, he would probably have had more success as a rookie if he was playing more patient and doing more to protect his outside hand. But it is a viable pass blocking strategy if he gets more consistent about landing his punch, bringing his feet with him, everything like that. So there were 2 outside speed rush moves that gave Broderick Jones a lot of trouble in his rookie year. The first one is the cross chop, which is probably the most common hand move across all of pass rushing. You're chopping the outside wrist with your inside hand, pulling through, bending the corner. He gave up a sack to Dayo Odeyingbo for the Colts in week 15. He isn't necessarily overextending as far as leaning too far forward. He's just dangling his outside hand, easy to latch on and chop it down, and then he stops his feet, doesn't have the recovery gear to protect the corner. This play from the same game, you see more of an aggressive two-hand punch where he is overextending. This is probably the most consistent issue with Broderick Jones in pass protection, is that he ducks his head into contact. He's consistently lunging forward into the block, and when his hands get beat, that forward lean prevents him from recovering backwards. And then this play, he gets saved by the chip help, but still loses to the cross chop. He's trying to do the circle punch technique, which I've broken down extensively, where you're kind of doing a rounded punch with the outside hand. So you're drawing out the move, but you're still protecting it from getting swiped or chopped down. But he's a tick early with his replacement punch. He isn't firm with the outside hand, so it still ends up getting chopped down. Potentially, he knows that he has outside help here, so he's taken more of a shallow set to protect the inside, but he stops his feet at the top of his set, doesn't have any answer when the rusher turns the corner because he has to fully gear up from zero. Jadeveon Clowney beat him for an almost sack, where again, he's kind of using the circle punch. His outside hand still gets chopped down. Even though it's not an aggressive punch, he's still leaning too far forward, so you're kind of getting the worst of both worlds because you don't have a chance of ending the rep early, but you're still putting yourself out of position. So he doesn't have easy access to his recovery around the edge. And then the second speed rushing move that gave him a lot of trouble was the stab chop. I actually had, let's see, 8 decisive losses that I saw, at least from his tape, to the stab chop. Of those plays, I think the best rep from the pass rusher standpoint, so the teach tape play, is this one from Leonard Floyd. And there's 3 elements to this move. First of all, you're gonna stab with the inside hand, fake like you're doing a long arm. What that does pretty much every time is it draws out a 2-hand punch, so it's forcing the tackle to expose his outside hand. And in Broderick Jones' case, that also comes most of the time with him lowering his head into his punch. Now that the outside hand is exposed, the rusher uses their outside hand to chop it and clear a runway around the corner. And then to finish the play, they seal him off with a rip move where you're just taking the inside arm, hooking it underneath the blocker's outside armpit. He started seeing this move so often throughout the course of the season. It's not really the most common pass rushing move, but watching Broderick Jones, I got a lot of good teach tape on the stab chop. This play, Von Miller stabs the chest, draws out the 2-hand punch. Broderick Jones is looking at the grass. He chops the outside wrist, rips around the corner, gets a hit on Mason Rudolph. It's pretty much the same problem on all of these plays from Broderick Jones' standpoint. His punch is late, wide, and too predictable. He has the exact same reaction anytime somebody uses this move. So when you watch him on tape the week before, the rusher can be really confident heading into that matchup how he's going to react to the stab chop. And then he leans forward, stops his feet, and has no recourse to recover when the rusher turns the corner. Like I said to start out the video, it's important to keep in mind that with every technique we discuss, he's used to doing the exact inverse of that from a muscle memory standpoint. So it's a difficult adjustment, and it can be a real explanation for some of the struggles that he had, but I still think a lot of these technique issues were present on his college tape and would have still showed up if he played all of his snaps at left tackle. He also had some issues against inside counters, which usually shows up for a player that's getting beat around the outside. They're going to really prioritize leaning their weight upfield and protecting against speed rushes. This play against the Bills, now there's a chance that he thinks he has inside help from the right guard. Based on his reaction, it looks like he was expecting some presence from James Daniels here, but the inside hand gets beat cleanly. Nobody's protecting the B gap. Greg Rousseau gets an easy sack. Right here, Dio hits him with a bull rush. Doesn't get home with that move, but he's able to establish inside hand placement, control of the interaction. Once he gets to the top of the rush, he opens up the inside shoulder, arm over into the B gap, and gets half a sack. This play, he's a little bit late to react with the inside hand. Also needs to be more proactive sliding over to protect the B gap. Dio gets another sack. On the box score, it only credited him with allowing 2 sacks, but I feel like this could have easily been 3 or 4. And I thought overall, from a reaction time and technique standpoint, he really struggled against inside counters. Sometimes he would be late, sometimes he would be over aggressive with the inside hand, but the consistent issue on most of these losses is poor footwork to slide over and recover inside. But he does have the natural talent and athleticism to improve in this area. A lot of times tackles that struggle with inside counters, it's because they have slow feet, but Broderick Jones at least put multiple really high quality reps on tape of him blocking inside counters. This play against Von Miller, strong inside hand, decent job sliding inside and recovering. Good job here against the Cardinals. Again, I'd like him to be more proactive sliding with his feet, but he connects with the inside hand, stays attached. And then this play against the Ravens, I think they're actually running a stunt, so Broderick Jones doesn't end up picking up the looper, but it's a 3-step drop, so the stunt didn't have time to get home. Regardless, you see the firm inside hand and adequate slide quickness to block this counter. So he isn't lacking natural talent or movement skills, and he put a couple reps on tape of him executing pretty much every technique that you want to see at a high level. It was just nowhere near consistent enough to result in quality tackle play overall. And at this point, he's still, I think, firmly a developmental player in that phase. Hopefully moving to the left side, whenever that ends up happening, fixes a lot of his issues. I don't think it's going to be a complete fix, but he does seem to be a lot more comfortable at left tackle. And even though he struggled in his rookie season, I really think it was more of a below below average performance than a bad one. There have been a lot worse rookie seasons like this from players that ended up being really good, and I think it's okay to have some failures early in your career as an aggressive player. It's normal for it to take a while to adjust to what you can and can't get away with, and in the meantime, I think he will at least be a high impact run blocker as he develops in pass pro.